You have a very personal connection to this particular event.
I do. And I have meant to really get involved for a while now. But, having a small business and all of that, it just, can tie you up. But it was time, and Nicole asked if I would consider co-chairing for the walk this year, and I've always meant to. We've always contributed, but I've always meant to really, get more involved at some level, and this was perfect for that. So actually lost both of my parents to dementia. My mom first in 2013, and it was our first exposure ever in our family to dementia or Alzheimer's, and it was not easy. And I just think we need to find a cure. I mean, it's a horrible way to leave this world. It's a horrible disease, and I just really feel like we need to find a cure.
Obviously, as we, all, get older and we, face the loss of our parents, trying to navigate our lives beyond that. But as you were kind of alluding to there, that time in which we get an opportunity to say goodbye, to, say, I love you and thank you for everything. It sounds like, and I've heard so many different stories, and your story, I'm sure, is similar in the sense that you're robbed of that.
Oh, it was lost, John. It was completely lost. I mean, we again, never having had any exposure to this. We've had cancer in our family. We've had other things, but never having had any exposure to this, I didn't know what was going to happen or what to expect. And all of a sudden, we were at a point where I'm making decisions for my mom, and I can't involve her in them because she's just not, she's just not able. And so, yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about, a lot of things that I would have liked to talk about.
So she passed in 2013. So when did this first come to your attention? I mean, how was this first made? Were you made aware of this?
We noticed just that she was doing things. I mean, forgetfulness is one thing, but when you're doing things that are just really off and odd, and I know there are explanations. I mean, you can find articles that tell you the difference between just where did I put my keys versus we seriously have something going on. And we saw that. I mean, my mom had other chronic illnesses. She actually survived breast cancer from 1988, and she had very severe rheumatoid arthritis. So she had some trouble anyway. She had some disability going on anyway. But then when her cognitive ability started to go, it was just a downhill slope. Probably, and I honestly think we were fortunate in that I know people who lived with Alzheimer's or dementia for a lot more years than we did. I would say it was probably 2 to 3 years with my mom, and it just got worse. Like anything that would happen would lower her baseline for her cognitive ability. So if she fell or whatever, everything seemed to just lower her baseline, and she just never bounced back from a whole lot of things.
Obviously, at a certain point, you got an official diagnosis.
Yeah.
And what went through your mind? I mean, how do you deal with something?
You know what? It was not easy, and I was her, primary caregiver. And I had been to a lot of her doctor's appointments with her anyway because she had so much chronic illness going on. I am of the mindset that I just hunker down and get it done. So I probably didn't reach out like I could have. I needed to be with her. I needed to provide any comfort for her that I could. I just needed to get it done. I just needed to be with her and walk with her through that. So I probably could have, reached out a little bit more, maybe gotten more information, but, we knew what we were dealing with. And so I just took one thing after the next and just hung with her.
And so anyone that's listening to this and either they have a similar experience or a loved one in their life is sort of at the beginning part of this, or there's some questions, obviously getting an answer, getting a diagnosis is, important. And then finding a way to, as you said, to sort of just deal with it, to find a way to take care of the things that need to be taken care of.
Yep.
Including yourself.
Well, and I didn't do a lot of that back then. So, I gained weight. I mean, I did what I still had our businesses and still involved in some, organizations in the community, but I ended up having to back out of some of that stuff. And I just, it was all I knew to do at that time was just to be with her and help her and just try to provide comfort, because it's a scary thing. If you put yourself in that person's shoes, they know that things aren't right, but there's not anything they can do about it. So I just did what I thought I should do.
Obviously, you're sharing this extremely personal story, and very emotional, and I think anyone can understand why. In those moments of, as you said, where your mother has sort of lost that cognitive ability, and you have to start making those decisions for her. How much did you know about dementia going in, and how much did you have to learn along the way?
I didn't know much. Again, we had never been exposed to that within our family, and so I knew it was there, and I was honestly pretty savvy in like the whole navigating the medical world, because I had done that with her for all of my adult life, just to be her sort of her medical advocate for her other health situations, and so I probably could have done more research at the time, but I read a little bit, enough to know that there's no cure, and really there's not anything that we're going to do that's going to prevent or stop the progression. And when you know that, then you have to shift gears, and you have to figure out, like, now knowing that, now what do we do and how do we prepare? And honestly, I'm not even sure you can prepare, but you do what you can.
I think a lot of people would tend to go through that and once it's, over, so to speak, I think they're like, okay, done with that, moving on with life. But yet here you are, a co-chair of, the Walk to End Alzheimer's, obviously becoming more involved in this. Describe that process. What made you still stay engaged on this? Well,
5 years later, I lost my dad to dementia. And his story was a very different story than my mom's. The way that the disease affected him was very different than the way it affected my mom. And it's just horrific. And so to me, like, once I, go through my own grieving process, I guess I had to do that. Then it's like, okay, what can we do? This is crazy. Nobody should have to go through this. What can we do? And so I always knew I would get involved. And I am involved in some other things that mean a lot to me too, John, which like the Ark of Livingston and La Casa and whatever. This one's really, really personal, and I just feel like no one should have to go through this with their loved one, and we've got to figure it out.
Obviously, the money that's raised from the various walks that are held across the country, a lot of that money goes towards research. It also goes towards patient care. It goes towards caregiver care, an important thing.
Yes, because honestly, a caregiver needs a break too. And so, my dad and I sort of co-caregivered my mom. But when my mom was gone and it was my dad, it was, there just wasn't anybody else. And a caregiver needs a break too. So that's really, really important. The research part, obviously, super important, but there are other pieces. Until we find the cure, until this thing comes to an end, we've got to take care of everybody.
Folks that are interested in taking part, they can go online, alz.org/walk, and they can just search there and they'll find the Brighton Walk. I think it's important that people like yourself find the courage to speak on such an emotional topic for I think for you to be able to share that story. Hopefully other people can understand that this is something that many people go through, too many people go through.
Too many people. But, John, the thing is everybody deals with it differently. So if someone's not, I wasn't comfortable. I told you that. I have not really had a big conversation about this with anybody outside of my, close community. Everybody handles it differently. It's very personal. So maybe somebody isn't going to, be able to talk about it, but maybe they, could walk and raise funds, or they could volunteer on, the committee, or they could, share posts on Facebook, or, there's all different ways, and everybody has their own, and not to judge how anybody handles this stuff, because holy cow, it's just hard. So whatever anybody can do.
As you said, everybody's going to come at this in a different way or have a different experience. There is no one Alzheimer's experience or dementia experience. You're dealing with individuals, and so there's going to be these individual experiences. And hopefully organizations like the Alzheimer's Association and the Walk to End Alzheimer's find a way to bring people together and give them information to provide some assistance through this.
Right. Just letting people know that they're there and they're a resource. That's huge, too. That's just huge, too. That's just huge.